Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fast Times LeBeaus Racing Podcast. Today we have back David LeBeaus and Dylan LeBeaus.
How we doing?
Welcome, guys. So I wasn't there at the race. I missed it. So how was it? You guys can fill me in. I know you came in third, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit of not too frustrating, but still not happy with the result. I'd say, is that a good way to put it?
Well, it was a solid point tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a big thing.
You guys ran well. I was late, so
as you do.
Yeah, well, I had to work, and so the load fell on you and Rick,
Me and Rick
and Molly to get the stuff to the track. Mark came in a little bit later. So I was happy to see everything was set up and ready to go. And
me and Rick have gotten good at this. So
yes.
Getting things set up pretty quick. And
we were just joking about it off air just a second ago, but the trailer was immaculate, Rick. And I walked in the trailer, I thought I was in the wrong trailer. It was so clean. Generator was running, the AC was on. I mean, everything was. You guys were ready to go. So I know we had some rain in the area that day.
Rain that morning when we got there. It was pretty wet. Kind of had to, sweep the spot out a little bit, even with some water still in that spot. Our normal spot was completely flooded with inches of water, so we couldn't get our normal spot. So we had to move a couple spots over.
And we had the same problem at Daytona Speedway where got this really heavy rainstorm that came through, and wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get it in, but then sure enough, it cleared out. You know, the way they say about Florida, if you don't like the weather, wait 25 minutes and it'll probably change.
Well, it did. It poured that morning.
Yeah.
It poured.
And I know New Smyrna Speedway had a track that took a lot of water in, and it was having trouble getting it out.
Yes.
You want to touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, pretty much both ends. Normally 1 and 2 dries up pretty good, and you'll get some weepers through 3. But I mean, both ends were just, the bottom was caked with water, and it was kind of running a lane up pretty much all night. If you went down there, it was going to get a little treacherous.
I know when I got to the track, my first instinct was to go down and look at those corners, and I seen a lot of water leaching through. So the first thing I told you is you're going to be dirt tracking it tonight, and the bottom lane is probably where you don't want to be.
Yeah. Because
you get down there and you wash up, but if you're running the second lane and somebody decides, hey, I got a lane open, I'm gonna try to run down in there on you, they're gonna wash up and get into your door and maybe take both of you out. So it was a night that you had to really use your head. It was not a night you could just run your normal line that you normally run at New Smyrna. Is what I seen. And that's
absolutely.
I think we both discussed
That's a great way to put it.
So you had mentioned, like the water seeping and stuff. I just saw recently on Facebook, I think it was, where I think on one of the NASCAR tracks where they were actually drilling holes into the track.
I do believe
and water was shooting out.
I think they did relieve some of the spots because there was some cutout spots to try to help with that, and they did give us the option.
In the drivers' meeting, actually, Rusty came and said, "Do you guys want to rain this out?"
And literally, not one driver raised their hand. He said, "Let me see a show of hands. Whoever does not want to run here tonight, I will refund your money and make sure that you and come back. And there's no, don't you're not frowned upon. But if you're not comfortable, not one driver raised their hand. We all wanted to race, and so we knew going into it what we were dealing with. So
they decided the drivers had to vote. We could either do single file restarts or starts and restarts, or they decided to actually move the start zone up to a little bit more on the front stretch.
Which was
a great idea, but they didn't enforce it, from what I saw.
Well, anytime you have something new, you're going to fight this. That was something totally different. I've never seen that happen. This is the second time I've said this.
Well, a lot of tracks it is farther up, and I wouldn't be opposed to them moving it, most certainly to that spot.
You're right. And I noticed that some of the drivers that ran other racetracks were very adamant about wanting to get that done because they're used to that. They're used to firing on the front stretch.
Yes.
when we went to Showtime.
You're almost to the flag stand when you're firing.
I was baffled. I couldn't believe we had to all line up and fire right on the front strip.
But when you think about it, it makes sense because it's going to supposedly cause less carnage because now you're starting single file or in line on the straight where if you're in the corner, you got a ton of wheel in it and you try to goose it and you're in the back, you might loop it or have to get out of it.
It's a great point. So. I never really thought of that. I just I'm so used to firing off a floor that it seemed foreign to me. Yeah. But I did notice that some of the drivers that raced the other tracks, they were lobbying for that. Yeah. And I think it was a great idea.
And I think it worked out for the better. It kind of kept some of the carnage out because the people starting on the bottom didn't have to start in water.
Right. So typically, you guys are somewhere coming out of 4 when you start, right?
Yes. The zone kind of starts, I'm trying to think now, kind of right where turn 3 becomes turn 4. And then before it gets on the straight, that's your box. Right. And on a restart, the leader can fire anywhere in that box.
So from somebody that does not race, I mean, is it just something that you get to know and you're ready for it? Or is there a marking on the wall that you're looking at?
There's a stripe.
There's a stripe. There's a cone, and what else?
It's just a stripe, and then a stripe. The stripe goes all the way up onto the wall.
Yeah, there's a cone on the inside and outside of the racetrack.
So what they did is they just took 4 cones and moved the zone up, so you can see it on inside and outside wall.
So they moved it quite a ways up.
Okay.
So you're out of the corner and you're actually straight before your gassing zone or firing zone. So I know that had to be tough for a lot of the racers that normally race there, but I think it was the best idea to make for a safe start.
And then even then, there's still people spinning the tires crazy on the starts. Like in the super race, you can hear them when they get on the gas.
Yeah.
Even in the straightaway, you were saying.
Yeah.
Did you have issues with your tires breaking loose? No.
We were going so fast before we got to the start zone anyways. It's kind of...
Right. Well, and the race I won with, I think, the Boyd car. Who drives that? The Jeremiah restaurant car.
Wayne Parker.
Wayne Parker. When he was running E-Mods. Yeah. Now he had a problem that night, so I'm definitely not boasting that we beat him because he had a fuel issue, and I know he did. But it was a wet night, and I remembered running that track with the water coming up, and it reminded me of running dirt track because I didn't quite know what the front end was going to do or the back end was going to do, but I knew that Wayne Parker was behind me, and I had to run that sucker as hard as I could run it every lap, do everything I could just to keep from wrecking it, but run as hard as I could because he's coming. And when that whatever problem they had, may have been a fuel pump, it may have been a clogged carburetor or whatever, when that thing cleared up, he was coming for my butt. So I needed to make sure that I was getting all I can get. And I'm sure that's what you guys and your competitors were doing too. Yeah. You weren't by no means being cautious. You were running as hard as you could run. Yep.
So, but going back into the heat race, I've been on a roll this year of drawing in the back of the heat races. I've kind of been.
We've had some
pretty much every race except for the first race of the season where I got pole. Yeah,
I can say that. Without we've started in the back of a
pretty
bunch.
much every race. Yeah, so I started in the back and was able to get my way to third, finished third in the heat, but I had to start in the back for the feature because of the new rule. If you win the last feature, you have to start in the rear of the feature. So I started on the rear. Got a good start and got up to second for a little bit, but I just didn't have the car to hang on to it. Fell back to third, and that's where we finished.
I noticed this in crate racing that your starting position is so important.
Yeah.
It's to start in the back, to be able to go from the back to the front in crate racing. This is for you tech officials out there. Really, unless the guys up front are just sandbagging, shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
We all have the same engines. We all have the same transmissions. We all got the same carburetors. The only thing different at this point is our tires and our setup and our drivers. You get these drivers that race New Smyrna week in and week out. They pretty much know the racetrack. You can listen to the chip. You can hear where they're chipping, where they're not chipping. If you got a guy going from the back to the front, you kind of look at him.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you out, but I'm just saying you need to see what's going on. we should all be running within a specific time bracket.
Yeah.
Because we all pretty much have the same stuff. So, if you have a guy that's, that doesn't buy tires, or he doesn't, he's not up on his shock packages or something like that, well, you can kind of shrug your shoulders. But you see these teams that come in that can just close gaps and stuff like that, not a big advocate for that, Yeah. So.
We having technical difficulties?
Battery's about dead.
We're getting a signal.
So we're getting a signal that the battery's dead because LeBeaus talking too much.
It went yellow with a little this.
Okay, well, we'll continue on.
Okay.
We'll see how far we get.
So, anyways, that's not much of a soapbox, but I just wanted to say that crate racing is different than what racing when I was racing.
Mm-hmm.
You had these big ass motors, and the guys that bought tires and the guys that had the right rubber underneath them, they went well. The guys that didn't, they struggled a little bit. They let us do a lot with our engines at one time. Now we can't touch our engines. Mm-hmm. They're sealed. They're sealed from the factory. They come to us. We can change pulleys, carburetor, oils, and we're mandatory on what clutches and flywheels and all that sort of stuff we can run. So there's not a big gap there. Back in the day when I was running, there was a big gap. You could run between a 30 over or a 60 over. You could run a open compression, light compression or high compression. There was a lot of options that we could do. So sometimes that frustrates me a little bit, but nevertheless, this is the package what we're given, and so we just work with it. So continue on the heat race. I know
there wasn't that eventful. There's a lower car count than normal. We were missing a couple of the normal guys. There's 5 cars. Right. Got up to third. Stayed in third. Was supposed to start in the rear, but the 8 elected to drop to the tail of the field. Mm-hmm. So I started second row outside in 4th position. Mm-hmm. And me in the outside pole got a good start. I got up to second for a little bit, and I just couldn't hang on to it. The car was handling.
I'll tell you, on the restarts, you're exciting to watch. It is fun to watch you do your thing. As well as I do. I'm down there before you leave. Mm-hmm. I'm down there where you're at in case you need me for whatever reason. But I stay down there for the first lap, so mm-hmm. I can watch you come off of turn 4, mm-hmm. watch you take the green and go into turn 1 and 2. Then I'll walk down towards our trailer or our pit. Because it's entertaining. Yeah. I learn a lot because one of these days I'm gonna have to race against you. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do. But I don't know if it was the heat race or if it was the feature. But I heard your chip come in. It was like way down the racetrack. I mean, you carried that sucker in a long way before you shifted her. So I enjoy watching that, and I know there's a few guys that you look at and you mm-hmm. learn from. And I know Brad May is one of them. Yeah. He's like a artist on a restart, man. He's
an artist always. Just the way he weaves through traffic is impressive.
And he doesn't touch anybody, mm-hmm. just flat.
I think this might have been the first time I've ever seen Brad May spin out.
I didn't even know he spun.
When the 70 got turned into the wall, he had to spin to miss it.
Oh, okay.
Of course, he's driving through water and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I genuinely think that might have been the first time I've seen Brad May spin out.
But I mean, if you're a racer and you got to pull up next to the 9 or next mm-hmm. to you, I'm trying to think of who else sticks out in my mind right at the moment. But
well, I heard you used to be hell on restarts. You got Barbara Pierce one time.
I tell you, for years and years and years, I ran the 3-speed, and then finally I got tired of getting beat on the restart. I got tired of it, so I got an old, they call it poor man's Richmond, which is a 4-speed Saginaw because it's a heavy beast. But back in those days, we didn't care. We had plenty of horsepower, so we didn't care about being so light, So I put that 4-speed in there, and man, what a difference! I didn't have to pull that sucker down to 4th to like the flag stand, and my God. Oh, Barbara, she come up to me. She said, "What did you do to that car?" I said, "I put a 4-speed in it." She said, "Oh, you hell with a 4-speed." Well, we had some great great racing with her and Ron Lufsey, and I just.
Did you ever race Butch or no?
No. Butch would make some guest appearances, hop in and drive, either win or test or whatever he was doing. But no, he I never raced with Butch. Barbara was winning. She was the car to beat for a long time. But yeah, the racing back then was different, and the rules were different, of course.
Yeah.
It was a lot of horsepower, and so we didn't drive them to the corners like you guys. When you were telling me I don't use no brake, Dad, I'm like, no, I got to use a little brake. We would carry a lot of speed down the straightaways, so slam on the brakes and get that thing whipped to the left, and then once we seen a shot off the corner, we'd stab the gas and go as hard as we could go. So it's a little different now. It's a lot of momentum racing.
Yeah.
So that brings me back to that. If you got a guy going from the back to the front, something's up. Something's up. So.
So with your heat race then, where did you actually end up finishing?
Third.
Yeah. Okay. So there weren't very many cars that night, right?
No, we had a very low car count. So we really, when we say we started in the back, there wasn't many cars to deal with. I mean, he might have had 2 cars.
But I'm curious, did they actually do an invert again or anything like that?
No, there was no invert that night for any of the division. They drew a 0 for the invert.
Okay.
So, or I don't know if they drew, if that's just what they decided, but none of the divisions that night had an invert. So.
And I really wish that the EMOS would come out and run. I know everybody's got stuff going on, but they've got us on a bunch. So there's an opportunity to get your car out there and run.
What do you think, the rain that morning kept some of them away?
Probably. That probably frightened some, because I know, some of those guys come in with open trailers. They don't want to get their carburetors wet. They don't want to get their ignitions wet.
True.
They may not be running for points, so they may have decided, well, maybe not tonight. But
so out of the guys that there, I mean, how far are we talking that they come from?
I know guys that come in from like Eustis and Leesburg area. I don't know any further than that I'm aware
Kurt
of.
comes from St. Augustine.
Yeah, Kurt. That's right. I'm sorry. Kurt does come from pretty far from St. Augustine, and he was on a cruise, or he would have been there for sure.
Yeah, prior obligation.
Yeah. So he had already locked that in. There was no getting out of that.
Yeah, I remember he said he had to take his wife on a cruise so he can keep racing.
Yeah.
He texts me and he says, I really wish I could race. He says, I think I might buy Jordan and Dylan a cruise to get them out of it for a weekend.
Yeah.
So, Kurt's a good competitor, a good friend, and he's we always enjoy parking next to him. But yeah, so that's kind of how the heat race went, and then I think everyone kind of got the gist of what the track was going to do during practice.
Yeah.
And just kind of hoping the track was going to get better as it went through the night. And did it get better?
Yeah,
from
by,
the
by
heat
our
race to the
by our feature, it wasn't good, but it was better than what it was in practice. I went to the bottom one time. I was like, man, this.
Yeah, it just
It's gonna be
washes up,
sketchy,
right?
yeah.
Is that what it did? I wasn't there.
I tried to run high and then kind of late apex it.
Yeah.
When I tried to get off the corner, even running the high line, I was still getting really free off the turns.
Well, yeah, because your left sides are still in
Yeah.
the water a little bit. But to me, it looked. If I had to drive that race, I probably would have run the second groove.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I stayed most of the night.
Yeah, and not try to turn the wheel too much. Just try to keep it as straight as possible, and do as much as I could to keep up with whoever my competitors were. So, that's what it kind of looked like to me. In the feature, when the green fell down, and you were strong right there. We always are strong for the first 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah.
So you want to just kind of touch on that a little bit, how that went for you, the feature one.
Yeah, we got a good start. Got up to second on the start and was able to hold that for a little bit. But around lap 4, the car just started to fade away.
Yeah, it looked like the 41 was. You guys are racing really well together, and it looked like he was a little quicker on entry, and he was looking for a spot, but he couldn't go low because it was too much water. So he's just trying to find a spot, and then when he did find a spot, I looked over at Mark and I said, "That's all we got." I said, "We got a third place car."
Yeah.
I said, "If we don't break, that's where we're going to finish."
Yeah.
In my mind, that's kind of what I succumbed to, and I just was hoping you could hold on. I was hoping for a late race caution
Yes.
because I knew with a caution now, you could do your thing. You know, you could work some magic.
Yeah.
But it just didn't fall. It didn't fall our way. There wasn't enough cars to have a caution.
Yeah.
You know, it was you, then it was Art, and then it was the 8 car, and so everybody was pretty much in line.
Yeah.
Just doing the best they could to keep their cars off the wall and run straight. There was a little interaction with the 41 and 112, but it was very inert and didn't really do much, and it didn't help us in any way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I figured we were going to finish, you know, which was, again, a great night. I mean, you know, I know we're pissed off to be third, which is unusual because, you know, I've been in your shoes, so I know how you feel, but I've also been on the opposite end of that where I didn't run worth a damn for so long, and it was just awesome to be on the front stretch and take your picture and enjoy it with your people. So I can relate to your passion when you get out of the car and you're upset about running third, but it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody can do that. So,
Right.
So
And a good points night, so.
yeah, it was a solid points night. Didn't tear anything up. We can work off that. We can discuss where we think we can do better, and try to make some few changes to get the car a little bit better, and go from there. So, you know, I know you and I have a conversation a lot about this. Is just like, hey, you know, third or second is not bad, but I will share with you, you know, when I first started racing, you know, I was terrible in the beginning. I did everything wrong. Then I got pretty good, and if I didn't win, I was miserable. I was miserable to deal with, and Molly had to deal with me, and I feel bad. I get a chance to see it now with you.
I'm not that bad.
I don't know. I don't know.
We'll ask Jordan when she's on.
Yeah. And then, you know, then having a long dry spell, and then getting back up to the podium again, it's a wonderful feeling. So what I would say is, you know, enjoy it, because you know, the other guys would change spots with you in a heartbeat. So it's an accomplishment. You were there. You were ready to race. You gave it all you got, you know, and that's where we panned out. So
you had also mentioned that, you know, basically you brought the car home one piece and everything.
Right.
So the reason we weren't there is because we were at the high school. Jordan had a thing called Spectrum, which is their year-end band and orchestra thing. But after that was done, you know, I texted Molly real quick, and I'm like, have they run yet? How did Dylan do? You know, and she's like, they just went out now.
Right.
And knowing that it's, you know, like a 25 lap, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like we stepped outside, and then all of a sudden she said he came in third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's over quick.
that's
Yeah.
over?
Yeah.
So
There's no caution.
There was no
that's
caution.
that's where I was
And
going. There's no caution, was there?
I'm pretty sure I spoke to Dylan. I said there ain't gonna be no caution to this race. I
Yeah.
said it's gonna spread out. We're all gonna filter out where we're gonna be.
And we seen the sludge fest. That was the super stock race before.
Yeah,
us,
the
so
super stock
Not
race.
to get too deep into that.
No,
but
we won't.
yeah.
We won't, because it was a tough race for both of those drivers. But
For everybody.
yeah,
I mean, everybody got a piece of it. Yeah.
It was, but yeah, you know, give and take, and there was a lot of take and not a whole lot of give. And I'm not pointing fingers.
Yeah.
Lord knows, when we had our incident,
Mm-hmm.
I learned my lesson, because people see what they want to see on the videos, and if you're on this campsite or you're on this campsite, they're going to go that direction no matter what. And so I learned a bunch with Dylan Steele on that wreck, and so my the only thing I want to say is just we got to look out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
We're all local racers. We all have jobs. We all have families. We just have to look out for each other. And if it's lifting or if it's pushing the envelope that particular night,
Mm-hmm.
you got to do it in a manner that it's not going to screw up people. It's not going to hurt people or whatever. So I'm not saying anybody was right or wrong in that situation. That was a tough night with the water on the racetrack, a lot of dynamics going on that night. So just look, racers, look out for each other. When I'm in the car, I look out for my fellow racer, whether it's my son, my friend, or even someone I don't even care for. I look out for them. You know, I'm not going to wreck them. I'm not going to do anything stupid to hurt their night. You know, so that's important. You know, as you get into the pros, maybe you guys can spin each other out and wreck each other. You know, that's a whole different ballgame. But as on the local scene, you know, we have to race with each other every week.
Yeah.
You know, we have to coexist down there in the pits. So, you know, that would be my comment on that.
But everybody was okay.
Everybody was okay. It was a very hard crash.
I heard it broke the wall.
It did. I understand it broke the wall, and so you know, it's one of those deals. This is not a Disney ride.
Yeah.
This is serious business.
Yeah.
We're racing hard, and the speeds are high, and the safety equipment needs to be up to par. Racing radios and what do you call receivers are super important, and they're key to everybody's. You know, I think they should all have them, but and that's just my opinion. But yeah, you just got to look out for your fellow racer. So that's where I'm at with that. You know, not trying to throw anybody under a bus or.
Yeah.
I don't know who was at fault there.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, so that was a shit show on that race.
So I think all the E-Mod drivers seen that.
I think E-Mods that definitely clipped their nuts. They're like, I don't want to have to deal with that. We don't need to tore up race car. So let's all race, give each other some room, and look like you guys did. And so I was happy with how it turned out, and I figured that's where we were going to end up. So you know, I was. You know, you and I talked about it before the race. I said, just give me a solid night. Just give her all she's got, and we'll see where she pans out. But I think a late caution would have definitely been in our favor.
Yeah.
Been in our favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what else? Get the car through tech.
Yeah.
She passed tech. Biscuit's an amazing car. Don't you agree?
She's an amazing car, but she's outdated, man.
She is. I know. Well,
we got some $high pieces we're racing against now.
We're racing against some good stuff, but you gotta give Biscuit credit. I mean, that car has just done well in its span that we've run it, and I can't be any happier really with it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows when you pull that car out, it's going to be a top 5 car. Yeah. You're going to have to race it hard. It's not, you know.
So what do you need? What do you need to get farther with it?
Well,
or maybe it's not that car. Is it going to be something else?
Well, you know, we do have another car coming out that he's driven before, but you know, we've got to test and prove it again. It's untested, so we need to address that. Just you know, like a brand new piece. So we don't know what we got there. But you know, the evolution of E-Mods, I think, I'm speaking for myself, I think the idea was, listen, there's a lot of old modifieds laying around. They can't afford to run the big mods because those guys have tons of money tied up in their engines and shock packages and all that stuff. Nobody, you know, the working guy is really probably not going to want to do that. So the E-Mod is get some of these older cars that are in the back of the shop, bring them out and run them. And it was supposed to, it's kind of on the blue collar racer, if you will. And
hence the sealed crate motors.
Yeah,
everybody's the same.
There was some engine packages that if you didn't quite have, if you couldn't get a crate motor, you could still run what you had. We would try to make them all work, make it all work together. And I think it's working. It's picking. It's gaining traction. Because I know that other tracks have a division called A-Mod.
A-Mods, yeah.
But they run an actual
A DOT tire.
street tire, which I don't get that at all. But anyways.
Well, they recently switched over to a street stock tire now,
Did they?
I believe, yeah.
Okay. I think it's a great idea because there's a lot of modifieds that can be run, that need to be picked up and freshened back up. And that's where Biscuit and that's where the 88, the 88 was a fantastic car. That's where they can dwell. I mean, that's their home. The 88 and Biscuit, don't even bother putting them in the big mod race. Yeah. You're lap traffic. You're in the way. So they need a place that those cars can run. That was the whole premise of that division. But it's, in racing, there's always somebody willing to spend more and do more and bring a car that should be in the big mods, but is still in the E-mods. And you can't blame them for that because, it doesn't say you can't have an updated piece. So there you go. Now you got a piece that can run in both, basically, and run well in both. So that's where we're at. If we want to continue to run that division, you have to continue to evolve. And in racing, we've done that forever. It doesn't matter what division you're in. If you're in the Bombers, you want to look like a freaking sportsman. If you're in a fucking sportsman, you want to look like a super late model. This is how racers do it. It's been like this
in your own case, you used to run Sportsman.
I did. We had fancy noses.
A stock Camaro.
Yeah, it was stock, and we wanted to put the cool Camaro nose on there. We wanted to put the ground effects on there. We wanted to make it the next division up, and this is racers. This is our downfall. If we just can't stop screwing with it, we gotta keep making it better, faster, lighter, stronger, and so. I'm not picking on anybody, but in order to keep up with this guy, you got to keep spending. You got to keep spending and keep making it better. You can never stop.
Right.
So that's kind of how racing is in every division. I mean, even if you look at the dirt guys that run the 4-cylinder Bombers, look at their noses.
Yeah.
They got dirt late model noses on, which is cool as hell looking. Yeah. But that's kind of the evolution that I'm talking about,
So, what are I guess when I ask, what's the next step? What do you mean?
We keep running Biscuit to death. And then when he gets tired of her, I'm going to continue to drive her. We have the 88 in the background.
So do you want to get better in that class, or do you want to move to another class?
I think it really all falls on what the budget allows, and if the budget allows to move forward, yes, of course we want to put Dylan in something in a different division. If the budget doesn't, he needs to continue to make the laps and get as much experience as he can in whatever he can race. It doesn't matter what you race. The Bombers are just as competitive.
A ton of fun when I drove a Bomber. That was probably the most fun I had.
Those guys are just as racy or racier than us, than the modifieds or whatever. It just, someone told me this a long time ago, and it really made a lot of sense to me. He said, "There's no difference." He says the only thing difference is you get down the straightaway quicker. That was the only difference, and it made total sense to me. I was like, "That's about right." When you strap in and you put you got your helmet on and you've got your Hans on and you're strapped in a race car, you're in a race car. It doesn't matter if it's in a 4-banger, a freaking snowmobile, or whatever the frick you're in. You're racing. So there is no. You just got to kind of fit in where you get in, I guess. And that's the thing with Biscuit is like we just can't bear to put her aside and go to a fresher piece because she's been so good and so reliable,
So
That's so awesome. We just got prompt, just so you guys know. Just so you know what's going on. We got prompt from the outside. It's like, wrap it up, you guys. You're talking too much.
Intermission.
So, next week, no racing for you.
Yeah.
That
Got-
kind of sucks. Huh?
Got finals all week, and you're gonna be out of town, so
Yeah.
just not gonna be able to make it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we'll be back for the
The week after.
the
be
week
back with
after.
the modified.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on that week,
Mm.
and it gives us time to get a little more prepared on the truck, because the truck's a tough division. It's not to be taken lightly. You've got to have all your shit in one sock in that division, as in any division.
Yeah.
And so it just gets us a little more time on it, And so we're not really pushing for points. We're just pushing for good finishes.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want quality finishes.
I agree with you there.
To go out there and run last or laps down, it's not really worth it to me.
Yeah.
I know some guys enjoy that.
Mhm.
They go out and they like being there, but we like to go out there and run well. And so if I'm not running well, I just assume stay home and fix it so we can run well. So it's kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Any other final words or anything tonight?
well, I leave for Atlanta tomorrow. We got a track run there.
Wish I could go. But it's
I
my
wish
last week of high school.
I really wish you could too,
That's one
because
thing.
that is an awesome racetrack
Yeah,
to drive.
that's a bucket
And-
list track for sure.
Yeah, that's a fast racetrack, and I think with you and an IndyCar over there would be awesome. But we'll get you.
I want to
there.
get back into IndyCar. I don't care where it's at.
Yeah, we'll get you there soon. So thank you guys for having us.
Yeah,
Joe,
no problem.
Randy and Loki. Loki is
Loki
definitely
dog.
my new hero.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thanks again. Keep supporting us. We will be back, I guess, within a week. We did have an off week because of some
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties, yeah. So we had some hardware, software issues. But don't forget to check out the Facebook page for LeBeaus Racing, and also the Fans of Dylan LeBeaus group page. So
Go to the track. Support local racing.
yes.
If you're not cheering for us, go cheer for somebody.
Cheer against us. I don't
Cheer
care.
against. We don't care, but go to the racetrack, because it's really important, because this sport is, when you go to see local tracks, that's the basis of racing. That's the core. So
Keeps the track alive. We need a place to race. So
it does.
Gotta
It
support
does. So don't bash on your racetrack. Go there, support it.
I believe Old Mothers are free this weekend at New Smyrna Speedway.
I think that's true.
So if
double
you're-
check with us.
If
Go
you're a
on-
mom, you get it for free.
Yeah, go on New Smyrna Speedway
Facebook page.
Facebook page or whatever. But I think they do get in free, so that'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Take your mom to the racetrack. I can't imagine doing anything but being at the racetrack on the weekends.
Yeah.
That's all we do. So
And I do want to say, one last word. So if anybody out there watching wants to support this young man and LeBeaus Racing, please reach out to us, message us through Facebook. There's
The LeBeaus Racing page has an open messenger. You can send messages straight to it.
There you
So,
go. And also, like David was saying, go out, go to the races, and support the track. Because without the track, these guys can't race. So,
race hard, race clean.
thank you all.